Begin our session number 11. The title of the session is Internet Freedom and Governance, and will be moderated by the Secretary General of IJMA. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Nizar Zakka. Our panelists in this session are Sophie Madden, Senior Director of Global Services at the Internet Society; Raymond Rivera, Presidential Appointee to the White House and co-founder of Democracy.com; His Excellency Mr. Marwan Juma, former Minister of ICT of Jordan and the Chairman of KINS; Mr. Ahmad Hubballah, the Acting Chairman of the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Lebanon; Ms. Lorraine Harriton, Special Representative for Commercial and Business Affairs at the U.S. Department of State; and Ms. Marilyn Cade, CEO of ICT Strategies, MCADE LLC. Over now to Nizar, please.
Thank you, Wajid. Thank you, everyone. Please, Marilyn. Please, Imad.
Good for me.
No, Marilyn, you always good. So it's the last plenary before the closing session today, and I would like to welcome all the panelists and thank you for being here. It's going to be, we have like 35 minutes for the session. We're going to try to be as quick as possible. And I would like, and it's one of the, it's a very important panel. It's going over the internet freedom and the Arab Spring and the role and how important internet freedom today is and how much it's in danger because of the impact that it was able to do over the past few years. So today, internet and the freedom of expression is more at risk than ever before in this part of the world. And this is why we have a great group of panelists that we would like to discuss with each of the people from a different perspective. The importance of this panel is that it's addressing the issue from a business approach, from an economic approach, as in the past it has always been addressed from a civil society approach. And the economic impact on the society and in general is very important. One last thing, over the past 2 days we were able to issue the second Internet Freedom Declaration that was approved by the majority of the Arab ICT associations. And it will be published on our website. And it will cover most of the issues that we care about, how to protect our freedom online. And I would like to start the discussion with His Excellency Minister Jum'a, because you had a very recent experience on this issue and you have a great experience as Minister of Telecom of Jordan and as Chairman of Intaj. And please go ahead.
Thank you, Nizar. Good evening, everyone. I'll be speaking on my personal capacity, definitely not as a government official, because I no longer am one. If you talk about internet censorship, in my opinion, it's an oxymoron. They don't go together. For a country like Jordan, especially, where the King's vision is to make Jordan an IT hub, to make it basically a presence for anyone who wants to invest in ICT, whether local, regional, or international, it goes counter against the King's vision if you want to try to censor the internet, in my opinion. It doesn't work. Second thing, when there was talk about government potential involvement or government intervention, my opinion was, first of all, it doesn't work. Governments who have tried to censor the internet have failed and failed miserably. Second, it's not the government's role at all. And third, if you start with censoring one item, where do you draw the line? Where do you stop? If you start, for example, with porn, does it go into other items and so forth? No, but this is a very sensitive topic, by the way, and you can't have one size fits all for every country in the world. Each country have their own issues. They have their own issues to address. But we have to keep in mind, like Patty said this morning, there are no more boundaries. Boundaries are no longer there. Barriers are coming down. And if you censor something, for example, on the web, can you block it on email? Can you block it over BBM? Can you block it over WhatsApp? Where do you draw the line? My opinion, instead of governments investing in attempting to block and to censor, we should educate, we should spend money in educating our younger generation, educating our parents on what to do, what not to do, especially parents, because parents who are unaware of what their kids are doing would be in support of censorship. So educating parents is a very important point. But also, if you want to have freedom of the internet, which we are all in support of, responsibility is very important. I shouldn't and can't be allowed to go online and defame people and slander and libel and then say, you know, it's the internet. At the end of the day, it's like any other medium, whether I'm standing in a public square or writing in a magazine or writing in a newspaper, I can't say it's the internet, therefore I can do what I want. There have to be tough defamation laws if in fact someone goes beyond what's legal. But I'm all for keeping the internet open because at the end of the day, the internet is like a tidal wave. Either as a country, you ride it and you leverage it and especially as governments and make use of it. If you try to go against it, it will bury you. You really have no choice. So in my opinion, those two words don't go together. They shouldn't even be attempted by governments. You will have different controls at the end user level, but never at the government level, in my opinion.
Thank you, Maris. And now I would like to hear from Sophie Maddens, please.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to just touch upon some of the points that the previous speaker made, because it is all about capacity building, it's all about understanding the openness of the internet, and it's all about understanding how the internet must remain open, because if not, you affect the technology. And looking at the blocking the behavior on the internet and how some think that blocking the internet can stifle the behavior on the internet. Think about a car on a highway. Just because a car speeds on the highway, you don't close the road. You actually look at the behavior and you deal with the behavior. I think, just to come back to the other points I would like to make, we all realize just how essential the internet is to our life. It's important to us economically, socially, politically, and personally. It creates the world in which we live. I'm a professional, I'm a businesswoman, but I'm also a mother, a friend, a colleague. So the internet allows me to do what I do and to be who I am. But in the last few years, in the last decade or so, the last 2 decades, the internet has changed our world, has changed our life. As some of the speakers said this morning, it's not all about one small pool. It's not about one small country or one small village or community. It's about regions, it's about the world, and the internet affects the world, and we are stakeholders, player on the world scene. So I think there are 3 big pillars that I think about when I think about the internet and when I think about how the internet is regulated, the internet governance. There's the technology pillar. Let's make sure that the technology remains open. Let's make sure that we have a robust internet. If you block DNS, if you block certain technologies that affect the internet, you block the actual technology, the working of the internet. And it's all about the robustness and the working, the creation of an open internet. But then you also have the governance. And more and more, as there have been more and more stakeholders, and as more and more people become involved in the world through the internet, including in the Arab Spring, but also including, as this morning said, the movements in New York, all the movements that have appeared over the last few years, we need to understand the process better. It's understanding the process about how to keep the internet open. And then the human capacity, again, as more and more stakeholders become and can become involved, we at the Internet Society believe in empowerment of communities. But again, it's about teaching people and allowing communities such as youth, such as women, such as rural communities, such as politically active communities or business communities, to see how can they have a voice in this discussion, this multi-stakeholder environment, this open environment that regulates something that is so important to our life, which is the internet. So I personally believe that closing down the internet is not a positive thing. Again, because it affects the technology, it affects the empowerment of the communities. I don't think the stakeholders can be removed, but we have to learn to talk to each other, and that is what the internet governance is about.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophie. Please, I will move on so we can, with Lorraine Harrington. Excellency, please, if you can.
Yes, I'd like to talk a little bit about the United States government's viewpoint on internet freedom. I think our position was very clearly articulated by the minister here from Jordan, and I think we're very similar on this.
Ex-minister.
What?
Former minister.
Former minister. Excuse me. Former minister. In that we are very committed to an open internet and a multi-stakeholder regulation of the internet. We feel that the internet, as President Obama has said, is one of the greatest examples of a self-organizing mechanism that is working very effectively today, and we want to continue with that approach to things. We don't believe that government itself really has a role in doing that type of regulation, and frankly, don't fix what's not broken, is I think the way we feel about it. When it comes to content or regulation of that, there are laws that different countries have that are appropriate for their environment, and there's nothing stopping those laws from being implemented and human rights and people's rights being defended through the laws that are already in place. The actual internet itself does not need to be regulated, or the people who are responsible for the internet are not supposed to be that, any more than the telephone lines or a public square has the people who run a building are responsible for the content that is said within that building. It's the same thing. But the most important point that I think we all are here for is to understand that the internet is the vehicle for commerce and for the building of the future knowledge economy of the world and of this region in particular. And this means that this mechanism, which is the key enabling mechanism that we have for building this economy, needs to stay open and free and fair. I think there was an excellent example that was given yesterday afternoon for those of you who were here, that they talked about the history of this region, and they talked about the printing press. They mentioned that when the printing press came out, that what happened was some of the governments in the region censored printing of the printing press. They were concerned about the content and the religious content, and that put this region back hundreds and hundreds of years. So I think when we look at how we move the society forward, how do we, support these wonderful entrepreneurs we're here to talk, we've been talking about for the last couple of days, we need to really recognize that we have to keep an open and free internet to enable the growth of this region, and that's really the bottom line.
Thank you, Lorraine. I want to move on to Dr. Imad Hubballah, head of Telecom Regulatory Authority of Lebanon. And Imad, I would like to ask you about how much people online are secure and are protected, in your opinion.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me tell you, if you move within the Arab countries from one to the other, it is not a secret to say, I really don't think we have free and open access to the internet. Let's start off the bat. Let's not kid ourselves. Even in the countries that are considered most advanced, most forward-looking, we have censorship across the board. That does not work. It doesn't work at all. I, as a citizen of Lebanon or of the region of the world, I need to make sure that I, my wife, my kids, my parents are able to access the internet and get to the data that they should get to, they want to get to, without being questioned as to whether they should be able to get to it or not, whether they're allowed to do it, to go to it or not, and what's the value to it of that information to them. I should be the person deciding whether that information is important to me or not. The same thing about expressing my views or my kids' views, whether she wants to say something to her friend about any piece of information. Along the same lines, our data is not secure. As far as I'm concerned, it isn't secured if somebody looks at it. If somebody touches the information or looks or peeks at the information that I have or pokes into it, it's not secure. To me, security means my data my private data is my private information. Nobody should be getting their hands on it. And I could almost swear that I don't think of any of our countries that doesn't get into the data today. 3, people forget that this transformation is coming. It's happening. There are no boundaries. There are no boundaries to what the internet is bringing. You cannot create boundaries that do not exist. You know, it's global. And all what it does, it impacts our citizens. It impacts the people that are in our countries. They cannot do business. Their information, instead of doing the business with our companies in our countries, they're able to do it outside. And what that means is major cost to our economy, major cost to our people, major cost to the level of comfort that our people have. The data is not secured. Now, we could talk about cybersecurity in general. We could talk about the need to make sure that there is something that could be done to secure the data in general. But again, I personally want it to be secured from my government at the same time that I want it to be secured from my competition. And the economic effect of not having access to the data is far beyond what people are doing. We've had a couple days of information and discussions here. And you know what? We ignore the fact that a lot of the data, we do not access the internet, or there are people who do not access the internet, either because they feel that the government is looking at it, or their competitors are looking at it, or because they're not sure where the data is going to be stored, whatever. So we need to let it free. We need to get the people off to a good start. Again, I call it a start. It's not really, we haven't started. And I ask the government to embrace, governments in general, to embrace the change, be change agents, transformation agents, but not be inhibitors to the move as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hubballah. Ray Rivera, please can you give us your...
Well, my first reaction is, over the last few days, I'm just really heartened by the discussion that's taking place here. I can tell you that the impression from a lot of people I work with in the U.S. is that this discussion isn't happening as robustly as it really is right now in this region. So I really applaud the folks who put this together, and His Majesty and the government who have been hosting this. And this is really amazing, especially when you think about that we're still in the U.S. struggling with this issue. Just last year, there was a bill, SOPA, the bill that was in Congress. It started off kind of hidden away, and a lot of bloggers and people on the internet sort of pulled together an advocacy movement around it without really any organization or lead or somebody funding it. It was really just organic. And so even in the U.S., we're still struggling with these open internet issues. And that's, even why I'm starting a company around this, democracy.com, because you would think that every elected official in the U.S. has a website, and they're not even leveraging the technology they should be. And really, it took a couple of presidential Obama campaigns for people to really see the power of that, even amongst elections and democratic activity. So I think there's a long way to go for everyone, and I'm really glad the discussion's happening here.
Thank you, Ray. And our last panelist,
best for last?
Yes, the best for
Well, I have to start by saying how thrilled I am to be here in the region. I was very fortunate to be invited by Nizar to come to MENA ICT Week in Damascus in March of 2011, and participated in a roundtable on internet governance that was moderated by Dr. Hubballah, which brought together a significant discussion and examination of what does internet governance mean and what does it mean to business. So I thought I would just say a couple of words about what is internet governance and why it matters to business and why it matters to you in the MENA region and to the role that you can play within your region, country to country, and from your region in a very powerful and informed voice to the rest of the world. During the World Summit on the Information Society, a 4-year UN preparatory process, and then 2 summits of heads of state, we evolved toward a definition of internet governance that is broad and inclusive and does include and almost mandates at a head of state level a call for the involvement of all stakeholders, not just governments working together to govern or government the internet, but civil society, NGOs, business, and calls on all of us to be responsible in helping to create the rules, the norms, and the laws for the internet. We look at the internet as a tool that extends the human right to communication. That is really what that tool does. That's what social networks do. They help us as individuals and as businesses and as civil society and as NGOs to communicate with each other and to access information. And I'm really excited about the platform that the Arab Internet Manifesto set back in 2011 and what this new proclamation calls for, because it recognizes that the internet is an empowering tool that can help to broaden and deepen social engagement, personal empowerment, and economic growth. And we all understand the importance of economic growth, not just in this region, but globally. It's a really important part of our world that we need to influence. Enabling this tool, making it responsible, and participating in setting the rules for it. There are debates about freedom of expression and who sets the rules, and I'm really hoping that all of you from this region are going to take these conversations and debates seriously and become more and more involved in them, because I think we're beginning to see a growing consensus for involvement and responsibility and ways to deal with the challenges. There are challenges in the online world. There's the challenge of spam. There's the challenge of protecting children online. There's the challenge of cybersecurity and cyber threats. Access to stored data, what are the rules for that? But there are ways to come to conclusions and agreements that are developed with the voice and understanding of business, with civil society, and with governments that create practices and rules and where necessary laws. And I think this internet governance issue is the kind of issue that needs to involve all of us as business, and we need, as business in particular, to be talking to our governments and explaining the economic power and force of the internet and access to information and how it will help this region to create jobs and to empower its voice. I really look forward to that. I spend a lot of my time with governments in various settings, and I could welcome a few more business people from the MENA region coming to join.
Thank you, Megan. I would like just to ask Dr. Jim one question first, and then
Okay.
I just want to see how do you perceive that every time any human right violation has been done, it has been always under the national security. It has been always proclaimed that it is national security issue, and this is why it has been done. So how do you perceive this? I would like to hear your opinion.
I don't know why you're asking me that question. No, again, this is not whether the issue national security or not. I think if people do things illegally online, laws should be there to protect. I mean, it gives you no right whatsoever to act illegally if you're online. Whether it's defaming people, for example, in Jordan, we have a very new cybercrime law that protects against child pornography, that addresses network hacking from within mostly, because most of the hacking happens from within companies, not from outside. So there are laws in place to protect against issues we need to protect against. But if I may, just a few observations on what was said. We're talking about transformation is coming and e-commerce is coming. In my opinion, no, transformation came. E-commerce is reality. It's not coming. It's already there. We shouldn't be talking in the future. It is a reality as we're speaking. And on the issue of people, I differ with the honorable regulator from Lebanon, just saying that people are weary of the internet and don't go online. I think people, the young generation, go online. They could care less who's doing what. They're online, they're shopping, they're playing games, they're interacting. And we heard from Ihab and we heard from the telcos today that the old way of doing communication is gone. Now it's all IP based. So on the contrary, you should jump on the bandwagon. Last thing on why it's important for us, this issue, as Jordan, for example, and countries are trying to become knowledge-based economies. As an IT investor, your investment basically is manpower, it's brains. So if you put blocks on me, if you put rules to inhibit me, I will pack my bags if I'm a regional international players and go elsewhere. If I'm a local company, I will opt to go somewhere else. So it's not like having a manufacturing setup or you have a huge investment that is difficult for me to move. I can easily move. So if you think you can lock me here or close or be tough on me here, I can just pack my bags the next day and go elsewhere where things are more open, more free. So at the end of the day, if you're trying to position yourself as a real player in the knowledge economy, you have to put your money where your mouth is. But again, along with it comes responsibility by people who are online.
Perfect. Dr. Imad.
Just to clarify one thing. People in many countries, whether we accept it or not, have started, but some of them are refraining today from doing the business online. People are accessing it. You'll see a lot of things, downloads, exchanging of information, but businesses are not really exchanging information online. E-commerce in general is not where it should be in the area for some reason. That's a good reason, and that's because it isn't safe, it's not secure. As far as rights, being on the internet, you have the same rights and responsibilities as you have off the internet. We gotta believe that, and governments really are called to embrace it. Now, they could be part of the change, they could be part of the multi-stakeholder change environment, or they could be, or somebody else would do it. And I think it's really better that we do it as quickly as possible. The loss to our children, the loss to our economy is great. As you said, when somebody picks up the business and does it somewhere else or goes through somebody else, it means the business is not being done here, which means our economic situation is not getting where it should be. And if you look at where we are today compared to where some other countries are, whether it's in Jordan or Lebanon or even Saudi, we're still lacking a lot. And that, in my mind, at least because of some of these freedom issues that are being escalated and concentrated now on the internet. Going back to your question about the human rights. The violations. We say, it's a violation and we blame it on national security. I believe most of the time, I don't say every time, most of the time it has nothing to do with national security. It's with establishment security. And that we really should be making a difference as we move forward. And it is the country, the people that eventually own everything that goes on. And it should be for protection of the rights of the people as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Imad. Sophie, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to just build upon the question about everybody has access to the internet today. Yes, everybody has access to the internet today. But I do agree that especially the older generation or a generation that isn't quite as familiar with the internet and the possibility of the internet, there is a fear sometimes of the data being there. So I think that's why capacity building is essential. Even if you look at school connectivity plans like here in Jordan, ICT and education, sometimes it's the community. I have children myself, so I know the youth 2, 3, 4 years old, they're on the internet, they know how to deal with it. But we need to teach them the right behavior sometimes, and we need to make the community aware as well to not be afraid of the internet, because those who are not as familiar sometimes are afraid of the effects of the internet, and there the capacity building has a major role to play.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to comment when you made the statement about behavior on the internet, and there's been a lot of talk about defamation or comments or how do we treat this discourse. And having grown up now with this technology, it's been amazing to see how people self-regulate even on the quote-unquote anonymous internet. Yep. It hasn't taken a lot of oversight. People can tell when someone's lying. People can tell when someone's saying something that's not their opinion. And it's been in the U.S., what I've seen is that it's been amazing to see it self-regulate. And I know a lot of campaigns and elected officials who were very afraid of going online at first because they were worried about what people would say and comment on their blogs or on their websites. and it was pretty much turned out to be unfounded. People who said things that weren't true or were slanderous on their sites, sort of other people made comments to kick them off, and it didn't take as much oversight. The public and the internet self-regulated itself. And I know this doesn't happen all the time, that's a generalization, but I think it's something to think about as other public officials and other leaders think about going more online.
Thank you, Ray. So, before closing the session, we can have 2 questions from the public, if anybody has a question.
Will these questions be regulated, or they're just going to be open? Okay.
I don't know if there is.
That's regulation, no mics.
No mic. So, no mobiles, no mics.
Self-regulation.
Speak
Speak
up.
up.
In reality, we can see a lot of effort put into blocking access to information, but here I'm not seeing any representation to that effort, and I'm seeing everybody happy with what we have. Even the gentleman from Lebanon, who is supposed to be working with regulation, does seem to be in line with us. So who are we talking to? And how can we change the reality that we live in?
You see, you cannot change the reality.
I think I'm done with my question. I'm just trying to see the value of what we are trying to do here. We all, you are not, we are all on the same page in this conference and in this congregation, and the panel is the same. So who are we talking to and how we can change it?
So let me respond, and others may want to comment. I guess what I'm hoping is that, in fact, we are on the same page, but I don't know that until we have this interaction, right? I can tell you my point of view until I hear from you that we are on the same page. I don't take that for granted. I would like to think that we are on the same page and we want to create this environment that can have a responsible and secure internet, but one that is free and open. But then I would say, let's send that message. Let's say that the MENA ICT attendees strongly support an open, responsible, free internet and think it advances social and economic growth, and call on governments to support that approach.
I'm speaking to the front row, maybe. Just kidding. I think making a statement is very important. I'll be honest. In the recent past, there have been attempts or thoughts of controlling or blocking certain aspects of the internet. There was in Jordan a talk little less than a year ago about blocking porn. Now, if you ask 100 people, if you ask everyone in this hallway, are you against porn? You will get the answer would be yes, of course we're against porn. But whose job is it to block? Our point of view was it can't be and it shouldn't be the government's job. They have neither the capacity nor the know-how, and if you start there, where do you draw the line? My point was, instead of trying to waste money on blocking things that you can't block, spend money on educating parents, spend money on educating teachers, and if anyone wants clean internet, let it be at the ISP level, or at the user level, or at the software level. It shouldn't be at a higher level. And again, making the statement as the MENA ICT Forum, not only to this crowd, this should go beyond this hall, basically. This is a statement that should go to everyone in this region, that at the end of the day, if you want to build knowledge-based economy, if you want to make use, if you want to leverage technology, if you want to ride this tidal wave, keep it open, but make sure every country has its own laws, its own issues. Even in the US, they have issues, and every country have their own issues that need to be addressed as well.
No, I had no doubt you agreed with us. That's one. Two, I have my doubts that everybody in the audience agrees with us. Three, we could try it. Let's say whatever we talked about, whoever disagrees, let's say all of us agree with it. Let's stand up and say, yes, we agree with it, and let's take it as a resounding, okay. How is that? Okay?
No one's getting up.
Nobody's gonna get up.
No one's
You see,
getting
nobody's
up.
getting up. You see? Huh? I get up. Let's get up. You see that? No. Listen, don't stampede it. You see? The point is,
It applies to front row as well, though.
okay, I could understand the front row. Okay, but no, let me finish, please. Listen, please. Let me finish this. If we all agree, I agree with His Excellency that we need to see what we do after we leave this room. What is the responsibility of each one of us in making this happen as we move forward? Because we have responsibility, within the regulator and within the community that I have, and so on and so forth. That's why it's a part of making sure that, yes, we believe in it and we're going to make it happen. And if somebody disagrees, I would love to hear their opinion. Probably we'll get convinced, or probably we're ignoring something, and that is a part of what we're doing here.
One more question. Last one.
No,
So can I just quickly say something, because it does seem to me that we are oversimplifying matters. Just a quick point, and I think it's an important one. Well, you touched on a very important issue, which is that actually, if you dig deep, not everybody in this room would agree, and it's a society issue. So in my view, we should address the society issues. Instead of coming back with a statement that we all agree on the freedom of internet, we should address the concerns, and we should do a little bit more of a sophisticated job to get people to understand that porn is not the issue, that freedom of speech can touch on lots of things, and we send that message, which will be a little bit more sophisticated than just standing in a room and making sure that we all agree on what we all believe in. Thank you.
agreed.
Shukran. My name is Haidar Frihat, and I am from the United Nations, and I would like to say that there is a process that some of us are aware of. It's called the Arab IGF process. It's the Arab Internet Governance Process. There was a meeting about a year and a half ago in Beirut. We called it IGF 0. There was IGF 1 in Kuwait about maybe 8 months ago. The next IGF will be either in Algeria or in Morocco in 6 months from now. So there is
No, you forgot Lebanon, come on.
I said IGF in Lebanon, IGF 0 in Lebanon. Also, Lebanon is a competitor there. And there's a process, we call it the multi-stakeholder approach. It's the governments, with the NGOs, with the UN, with the private sector, with all the stakeholders. They sit together and they redefine their priorities. So that's the process.
Dr. Haidar, I appreciate your question. And like the private sector of Jordan is Intaj, is not represented in the Arab multi-state.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Intaj.
Most of the private sector in the Middle East is not represented in the Arab IGF. I would like just to point this to the rest of the attendees, and this is a problem when we talk about multi-stakeholder in the Arab world. We always forget in the multi-stakeholders the Arab private sector, not the international private sector. And I would like to wrap up this session and thank everybody for being here. Thank you very much for being here, everybody.
Rizal Zakka, Secretary General of IJMA, thank you very much. Watch your step. Thank you to all our panelists. Very positive and fruitful conversation. I'd like to emphasize once again the necessity of switching off your mobile phones, iPads, tablet computers that are mobile enabled. Could you please switch them off? Thank you very much.